the iPod has had this catalyst effect on podcasting and now on video as well. There was a thing that we know of as podcasting that wasn't named podcasting, and it was sort of evolved and was developed a few years before the iTunes Store, and the iTunes Store came around. The iPod became popular, but it wasn't until podcasting was named podcasting that it really exploded in popularity. Is when podcasting really hitched its star to the iPod and became known as, oh, this is something that you can use to load up your iPod with. Even though it's not necessarily the iPod which is wed to what we know of as podcasting. You could do it without an iPod, but people prefer to do it with iPods, and people love the idea that it was named similarly to the iPod because that's the gold standard of coolness and excitement. So that took off. And then the next step came when Apple linked podcasting to the iTunes Store. They said, guess what? It's called podcasting. We're not going to sue you. We're going to embrace podcasting. We're going to put it on the iTunes Store. And then the number of podcasts just rocketed up. And Apple had 1 million podcast downloads in a really short period of time. And that became popular. The next step came when Steve Jobs announced that he was going to do television shows through the iTunes Store. And essentially what that did was, psychologically, it made television shows, the most popular ones, Lost and Desperate Housewives, these $2 million productions, into podcasts. You treated them the same way. Maybe you paid $2 for them, but they became essentially podcasts. So what really happened was that the iPod, the iTunes Store, and Apple helped smash out that paradigm of scheduling, of broadcasting, and made it into podcasting, into something where, like blogging, just plain people can compete belly to belly with the big guys. And that's a transformation, I think, that got a lot of help from the iPod. Now, I found it amazing how quickly the big media publishing companies jumped on podcasting. I've never seen any form of technology, any form, a new form of delivering content. The companies, big companies, whether they're CBS or Newsweek or the New York Times or NPR, pow, they were on that within months. And it took them years even to kind of learn how to spell World Wide Web. So this really showed that we're in a different time. And I think it is something which pretty quickly went out to not just a little sliver of the population, but something, if not the mainstream, approaching something not unusual. And I think it's kind of interesting because the adoption at this point has outpaced how people can figure out how to use it. Right now, I download more podcasts than I can listen to. On an airplane, I'll listen to a lot of podcasts. It's a great place to listen to some. But I think that what we have seen is that there's enough interest in the medium itself to keep it going and for it to find its place in the food chain.